NFT NYC has come and gone. And on this episode, I'm going to dive into my reflections on the overall conference, the event, and share with you some tips that I hope to definitely take into future conferences and events when it comes to Web3 and crypto. So if you're ready, let's dive into NFT NYC 2023. I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is More Than Blockchain. From April 12th to April 14th of 2023, thousands upon thousands of people made their way to the Big Apple to meet up with other fellow crypto, Web3, and NFT people. For me, personally, it was a surreal experience because I was able to link up with two people who I've been creating content with one for a couple months, maybe about 6 or 7 months now, and the other for almost a year and a half to 2 years. But we had never met before. So that was the surreal world that I now inhabit and live in. And to be fair, it's crazy because I remember watching for years on social media, on Instagram and YouTube primarily, of people meeting up with other people that they play video games with on teams. And it would be like, so-and-so is meeting up with so-and-so, and it would be like a surprise video where people would meet up after playing video games together for like 5 years. And I remember watching those videos and being like, that is so strange. I don't think that will ever be me. And I said that because I'm not a video gamer. So I couldn't have fathomed, and this is like years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I couldn't have fathomed a world in which I would live where I would be creating, cultivating, growing real relationships with people that I would have never met before. But we come full circle, and that is totally where I am in Web3 and crypto. And it was really cool because throughout my time at NFT NYC, both at the NFT NYC events, as well as all the side events, I would constantly see people go through this, where for the first time, they would meet up with someone who they're creating a project with, who they're creating content with, who they've just known and maybe interacted with for years on Twitter, and then they finally meet. So I think that there was a lot of kind of once in a lifetime moments at NFT NYC. And I know I personally had that. So shout out to Grant and shout out to Austin, two guys I create another podcast with called Not Crypto Bros. And I will leave that link in this episode's show notes. And for this episode, I really just wanted to take 5 to 7 minutes and kind of recap, give you my reflections on NFT NYC, as well as some tips for any future crypto or Web3 conference, and especially NFT NYC 2024. The first reflection is that community is real, it's not going anywhere, and that you can't create community overnight. In many ways, the creation of community for your NFT project, for your Web3 project, for the business you're trying to get off the ground, for your own personal brand, people that follow you, it can't be seen as a finite endeavor. It should be seen as an infinite endeavor. It is an endless marathon. And once you understand it like that, you slow down and you focus on what is the most value I can add today? What is the most value that I can bring to people where they are today? And in Web3, and if we're just going to focus on an NFT project, Web3 is really about creating a community as opposed to in Web2, it's creating an audience. And the best way I've heard this described is like in the 80s or 90s or even 2000s, or honestly, up until NFT projects aren't kind of the first to do this, but I think it's really where it's probably done it the best. If you have a musical artist from 20 years ago, that musical artist will have an audience because the conversation is pretty one way. They're basically able to share their life with their audience, but maybe the audience doesn't really have great avenues to share input. Now, a lot of this also has to do with the internet. So I'm not just saying it's just having to do with blockchain or Web3. But in the new world we live in, a musical artist can create a more exclusive and intimate experience through tokenization, through NFTs, which change the conversation of talking to the musical artist, maybe through an email or through a written letter years ago, to now where we are of being behind a token-gated community on Discord, for example, which is basically saying you have exclusive access to a private chat to have the conversation change from talking to talking with. So now as an audience member in Web 2, if I like a musical artist, Maybe I write them an email. Maybe I post on their Twitter, something like that. That's kind of a talking to. But now in the world of Web3, once you tokenize your community and you have a private space that only the members who hold that token can get into, the conversation goes to talking with. And so that to me is one of the biggest changes. We're going from audience to community. And the projects and Fortune 500 companies that understand this, they're the ones that are going to win. The ones that do not are going to slowly fade away. Just as the small businesses that didn't adopt the internet and digital marketing over the last 10 to 15 years have really fallen behind, the same is going to happen to the way organizations think about their what was audience, but should now be seen as community. And another real example of this is what Nike is doing. And if you live on planet Earth, you've probably heard of the brand Nike. Nike is currently dropping, I think it's like 100,000 different NFTs that have to do with their Jordans or I forget the exact shoe style. But what they're doing is they're inviting, I think like 100,000 people to come buy their NFT. And then they're going to be able to vote on the future of certain designs within Nike. So these are the type of things I'm talking about where you look at if you're a business, you're going to look at the people who might be able to buy your wares or buy your product or services. You're no longer to see them as an audience or clients, but they should be part of your community. They should be part of your marketing and PR decisions. Things that you would used to have to farm out to an agency and say, hey, go figure out our audience. We want to know what they want. Now you can just bring them closer to the fire, ask them what they want, and then really provide them a product or service that they probably wanted anyway. So community is not a sprint. It is a marathon. That is one of my biggest takeaways. Moving on. The next takeaway is that NFT NYC is a microcosm of the space. Due to the fact that NFT NYC happens in the United States, many people globally from different NFT projects simply can't make the trek to New York. Either it's too expensive, or on a more macro play, they don't have the visa to the United States, or they don't even have an active passport. And so this is something that was shared on Twitter that, having NFT projects really make their big event held at NFT NYC, where they have big parties, where they have big live events, where they're doing different things IRL. Twitter follower, and I can't remember the name, basically called that out and said that is super America-centric. It's super kind of Western-centric to have that, and that real NFT projects, or not real NFT projects, but a real NFT project should consider having events not only in North America or not only in Europe. NFT Paris just happened more recently, but think about having it in other places, in other countries where more people can travel to if they have passports, because getting a US visa is really difficult, and that shouldn't be understated. So that's one of the things I also wanted to call out. Another reflection is that networking in Web3 is totally values-based. And what I mean by that is it's based on the value you're going to bring, but also the values that you have. If you are representing an organization that is all about the climate crisis and trying to solve that and bring real-world solutions to, communities and make them climate resilient, you may stay away from projects that aren't aligning with that mission, right? With those values. And on the other hand, not only like do your values align with your mission alignment or vision alignment, but the value that someone is going to bring you. If there's no value to be exchanged, that's okay, but it may not be a fit. And I think that this is a real conversation that happens much earlier in Web3 than it does in Web2. I've been a part of a lot of networking communities and networking conferences and events in Web2. And sometimes those things just aren't spoken about. It's just like, well, you have this big brand and we have this company we're trying to get off the ground, and we just want to like link ourselves to you to get some kind of, co-signing street cred. And that's not what I see in Web3. In Web3, it really doesn't matter where you come from, what brand you're a part of. It just matters, can you bring value? Can you help my project? Can 1 and 1 equal 3 if we come together? If your project and my project come together, does 1 and 1 equal 3? Moving ahead on the next reflection, many of the projects that were there that are Web3 projects that are using NFTs to try to solve stuff were really focused on interoperability. So being able to move between chains. When I say chains, I mean blockchains that maybe currently can't talk to one another. And the other one was adoption ramps, trying to find ways to bring people that are in Web 2 and maybe aren't Web3 native, maybe don't have a wallet where they can receive NFTs, store crypto, etc. Trying to figure out a way to get them, those people, non-Web3 native people, into crypto. Basically, how can they take fiat and buy an NFT without having a wallet set up? And I saw a lot of projects trying to solve for these two things. Now, the interoperability, I think, is totally going to be, it is really the word moving forward in crypto. It will be the word in 2023, as far as I'm concerned, the most important word that you're going to hear as far as buzz. And bringing people who don't have crypto, or who don't have a wallet, and bringing them into Web3, I think is an interesting one, because I do think that the projects that I've seen that are most successful using NFTs, if you think about Ticketmaster and Starbucks, they're using blockchain and they're using NFT technology without having the end user know about it. And so that's definitely another trend to kind of look at. And I'm not necessarily sure if helping people use fiat to get NFTs is really what people should be building, or if it should just happen and then you don't talk about NFTs, kind of like the way Starbucks and Ticketmaster is using. So that was another reflection. Finally, for my last reflection, is that it's still early. The entire experience at NFT NYC really taught me that, like, when we leave the Javits Center and when we leave the side events in New York and we go back onto the subway, or we walk around the huge city of 8.5 million people, most other people don't care. Most other people have no idea what an NFT is. They couldn't use it in a sentence. They don't own cryptocurrency. They're super skeptical of cryptocurrency, and I can't blame them, because over the last 6 months, we have seen a lot of bad press, from the New York Times article that came out not even a week ago talking about how bad Bitcoin's mining is for the environment, to SBF and FTX that is still going on, and many like Web2 influencers, or many people, including Shaquille O'Neal, is getting served in having basically sponsored or co-signed FTX, for example. And so the ripple effects of some of the failures of crypto have been very, very vast, and they're still very, very loud. And they provide people with real world cases to say, hey, crypto is sketchy. And how can you not say that? Look what happened. So right now there's a lot of bad press. And it's just a reminder that when I'm outside of, even in New York City, when I'm outside of the side events, the dinners I had with my community there, when I'm outside of some of the networking and work events I was at, most people don't know what this is, and they don't care, right? This is the internet still. And I would say 2003, 2004, it's so new. People aren't sure how to use it. And because there's that unknowing on how to leverage the technology, there's still a lot of fear. Fear about, will it last? Fear about, why should I even buy? Fear about, I can live my life without it. Why wouldn't I? We've all said that if you're listening to this about the internet. I know I've said it about smartphones, and I've also said it about social media. And now I leverage all three of those things daily to work and build community around the globe. So moving from reflections to tips for next year, I'm just going to go through a quick list. Number one is go to side and main events. So my colleague and I from Mercy Corps, we were there representing the nonprofit I work for, which was really exciting. We both got passes to the event, the official conference, and we went all 3 days. However, on the last day, I went to a side event. And I think when we look at it for next year, one of my colleagues, maybe my colleague will go to the conference and I'll go to the side events, or vice versa. Because there are so many side events going on in NFT NYC from the day before it starts on Tuesday, even into Saturday, that you should really probably try to split up, and you're going to be able to see a lot more and make a lot more connections and just learn a lot more. So the first tip was make sure you're going to side as well as some of the main events. The second one is plan a networking event and do this on the side. It doesn't have to be an official event that's dubbed by NFT NYC as a side event. You can just throw up your bat signal in the air, put an event on LinkedIn, put some notice out on Twitter, in your Discord, wherever you have your community, on YouTube, and just get people together. Myself and the other two guys from Not Crypto Bros, as well as another LinkedIn friend, George, we had a meetup this past Friday, and we had about 20 to 25 people come through the event in about a 2-hour period. And we were able to actually talk with people, because sometimes when you're at other side events or when you're at the conference center, there's so much going on that you only get 1 to 2 minute touch points. So moving forward to any event that I go to, I'm really going to try to put on a side event. Even if only 5 to 10 people come by to say hi or to check in, that's still 5 to 10 people that I'm able to have longer conversations with and really maybe get more out of the IRL connection. The third is do speaking gigs when you can. At NFT NYC this year, there were 1,500 speakers. And I'm still on the fence of the value of speaking at NFT NYC because I think it's more of a putting it on your Twitter or putting it on your LinkedIn or putting it on your crypto resume. And I'm using air quotes. But if that's something that you want to do for your brand and you think it's going to help, I definitely think you should do it. So speaking gigs where possible. Number 4 is bring an extra battery for your phone. You're going to be on your phone so much connecting with people in real time, following them on LinkedIn, following them on Twitter, that your phone is going to go through it. So rather than having to be plugged up against the wall like I was for a couple hours every day, bring an extra battery, one of the mobile extra battery packs that you can just put in your pocket, have the wire come out, and then you can continue to move around. And you're not going to be dependent on plugging into a wall. That's a big tip. Number 5 would be QR codes. The days of business cards are essentially over. At the event, when I would walk up to someone, they would normally show me their phone's lock screen where they would have a QR code. And I think I saw this on Tuesday for the first time. So by Wednesday, the first day of the event, I had a QR code set up for myself. And I also sent it to my colleague that would lead back to where we wanted to invite people to kind of engage with us. Some people have it where it leads to an entire link tree or a website that basically shows all your social links. Some people have it so you can download their contacts directly into your phone. I was walking around with a QR code that invited people to just follow the Mercy Corps Twitter as a place where once you follow there, then we can stay in touch through DMs, through messages. So I would say business cards are kind of on the way out, and making sure you have a QR code that goes to where you want to invite people to interact with you post-conference or later on. That's a major key. Number 6 is the last one. Don't drink too much alcohol. I never did this. I was very strategic about this. I had about a beer every day when I was there, at dinner, when I was finishing out the day, normally with other people that I just wanted to continue conversations with or network with or meet who have been on the podcast. Shout out to Collabs for taking me out to dinner one night. Thank you so much, boys. But at that dinner, I think I actually had 2 beers, but definitely keeping your alcohol intake in check. It is a place where after the official event or even at side events, you may be enticed to have alcohol. There are parties, but I would say keeping that to a minimum is really important because every single day, the day can start really early and you don't want to have a hangover. You don't want to feel like you're, for a lack of term, half stepping. So keeping your alcohol in check, I think, is really, really important. And I also think you're going to represent your brand better when you're not intoxicated. Now, some people were there in NFT NYC for parties exclusively just with their NFT community, and they were literally partying for 3 days. That's a little bit different. If you're there for your personal brand, you're there for your organization, you're at a crypto Web3 conference for your bigger brand, I would say really try to keep that in check. 1 to 2 drinks, 1 maybe. And then if you cannot, that's even better. Some nights I didn't. So that would be my last tip. So there you have it. Those are my reflections and my tips for future crypto and Web3 conferences. Overall, NFT NYC 2023 was a 10 out of 10. I got to meet a lot of people, previous guests who have been on this podcast, my 2 co-hosts from Not Crypto Bros. I was able to link up with my colleague who came all the way over from Los Angeles and meet a bunch of other people that came in both internationally and domestically for the conference. I would give it a 10 out of 10. I definitely plan to go next year, and hopefully I'll see you at NFT NYC 2024. Thanks so much for checking out this episode, and be sure to check out the show notes. I'm going to leave links to Not Crypto Bros, who I talked about throughout the episode, so you can listen to Grant and Aussie. We go live every Tuesday at 3:30, and we go live on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So I will leave links below. You can watch us actually on the More Than Blockchain YouTube, which is a great segue because if you don't follow the More Than Blockchain YouTube, you definitely should. I create exclusive content there every week. Go ahead and check that out. As always, follow us on social media at More Than Blockchain. And no matter where you're listening to the pod, please go ahead and subscribe. If you went to NFT NYC 2023 or you want to share this episode with someone who's thinking about going to NFT NYC 2024 or any other crypto or Web3 conference, please go ahead and share this episode with them because I think definitely the tips section may help them out. Thanks again for checking out More Than Blockchain, and I'll see you next time.